finally, it has happened, people. This is the first ever debate on the topic of the Enneagram, whether Christians should embrace it. Let's do it, people. I'm excited. All right, so there I was preparing to do a YouTube video about who you should and shouldn't listen to in regards to the Enneagram. And I had a list of people: Michelle Montenegro, Doreen Virtue, and Melissa Doherty. The thing that I was saying about them was you don't want to listen to people who have hours and hours and hours on the Enneagram, against the Enneagram, and have never had a discussion with someone who was for the Enneagram. Just dedicate all those hours just hearing their own side talk, because I'm like, how would you go that long and never actually encounter somebody from the other side, like to where you can even defend what you're believing live? And it happened. This got uploaded during the time that I was working on it. And this is the first ever recorded debate on the Enneagram. I haven't seen any of it, so I have no idea what this is going to be like. I hope it doesn't let me down. I'm so excited. Just to give you an idea of where I'm coming from with this, Proverbs 18:17 says, of one who states his case first seems right until another comes and examines him. Proverbs 18:2 says, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only expressing his own opinion. And verse 1 says, the one who seeks his own desire escapes all sound judgment. They isolate themselves, essentially. Those are the usual culprits in these situations, and people like to isolate themselves. They don't want to understand people from the other side. They only want to express their opinion, and they avoid cross-examination at all times. Those right in Proverbs 18 is one of the most my favorite chapter in Proverbs for sure, because it hits on all these things that people overlook all the time. And anyway, I don't want to, I digress. I'm going too much into this, but I'm super excited because this is the first ever debate on the topic of the Enneagram, whether Christians should embrace it. And I have strong opinions one way. I think, well, not really strong. I think they should embrace it to a degree. Like, I don't think it's for everybody. But they shouldn't think it's the devil. And a lot of the conversations have been like that. So it has happened, people. And I'm going to watch it. And this is a long thing. I'm going to go the whole time. I'm going to do the whole, it's going to be in parts, of course, because I am about to try to edit and upload this thing while I'm reviewing this thing for an hour. This video has got to be like, it's probably going to be like 3 hours long. I don't know. We're going to see. Because I don't even know what to expect. But without further ado, Unbelievable Radio hosting a debate between Todd Wilson, who I don't know. I have no idea how good this guy is going to be at defending it, but we're going to see, versus Marcia Montenegro. Let's do it, people. I'm excited.
Well, welcome along to today's edition of the show, and do make sure to like and subscribe today's video if you're watching on YouTube. We've got loads more great debates in the archive and many more to come. You might even want to subscribe to our newsletter to get regular updates on the show, listen to the podcast, and get all the bonus stuff you get as well by becoming a newsletter subscriber. Today on the show, we're talking about the Enneagram and asking, should Christians embrace the Enneagram? What is the Enneagram? Well, it's a system that describes 9 personality types and the patterns of how people interpret the world and manage their emotions. It's a personality tool that's become wildly popular in the last few years in both secular and spiritual circles. But some Christians are split over whether it's a helpful way of understanding human psychology that can be a blessing for Christian ministry, or a dangerous Trojan horse for occult spiritualism that should be rejected. Well, joining me today are Todd Wilson and Marcia Montenegro. Todd Wilson
So real quick, I got to move myself out of the way. Oop, not that. I'm going to click me. Move myself over here so I'm no longer in the way of everything that's going on. And let me minimize myself. Let y'all get the full experience. Let's see how that size goes.
Is president of the Center for Pastor Theologians, and his new book, The Enneagram Goes to Church, claims that the same tool that has helped many people grow in self-awareness can be applied to life in faith communities with transformative effects. Marcia Montenegro is a former astrologer who left the New Age movement after converting to Christianity. She runs a ministry called Christian Answers for the New Age, and her recent book, Richard Rohr and the Enneagram Secret, explains why she believes the Enneagram is actually a spiritual deception being foisted on the church by influential leaders. So I'm really interested in today's show. I've been hearing so much about the Enneagram in the last few years. Not sure I fully understand it still, but hopefully Marcia and Todd can help me too, and help you too as well. So welcome.
Real quick, I want to say, please, man, I don't want to like interrupt too much, but there is something to be said about when you're introducing somebody within Christian circles and their credibility is former blank. That is one of the easiest low-hanging fruits to get people to believe and listen to you as a credible source. Former Hollywood star reveals the satanic corruption within Hollywood. Former astrologist reveals how occult astrology sneaks into the blah blah. This is one of the things that has been done again and again and again, to the point where people do realize that this is a way to con people and make money off it. Not saying Marcia Montenegro is a con artist, but this is an avenue that is that Christian evangelicals maybe, or fundamentalists, I don't know, there's a sect for sure where you can just make money by saying you're a former of this, former of that. To the point where there's a guy, Bill Schnoebelen, look this up. There's a guy named Bill Schnoebelen who's a former 99th degree Mason. I don't even know where that even comes from. I'm a Mason, but obviously you got this right here. I'm a Mason. There's no such thing as a 99th degree Mason. They say, oh yeah, I don't know because I'm not high enough to know whatever, but it's fake, right? Now, if that doesn't make you think it's fake, another thing that's wrong with Bill Schnoebelen, he's a former warlock or witch. I don't know, one of the two. But then he's also a former vampire. So he's like a former 99th degree Mason, which is fake, former witch, which you can have something with that, whether that's a thing or not, depends on your definition of it, and a former vampire, right? Don't really believe that. He's former all these other things too. It's a list. It's a litany. And now, why would he do that? Because Christians and people like that who have satanic panic are susceptible to it, and they will eat it up anyway.
Belong to the program, Todd and Marcia.
Delighted to be with you, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to be on your program.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to you both in the course of this and hearing the debate as well. I'm sure there'll be things you agree on, but plenty to disagree on as well. Todd, tell us a bit about yourself, first of all, the Centre for Pastor Theologians, and what got you into writing a book specifically on this subject.
Yeah, thank you.
There's like a little bit of a lag. I don't like that, this latency.
So a little bit about me. I am a pastor by background, spent 15 years pastoring a couple different churches in the Chicagoland area. Also an academic by background, and love the life of the mind and learning and research and writing. I have a research PhD, so I sometimes describe myself as an academic trapped in a pastor's body. And I lead this organization now full-time the last couple of years called the Center for Pastor Theologians, which is a way of bringing these two passions together of academics and pastoral ministry and leadership, helping pastors all around the United States be effective thought leaders for their congregations. So that's me kind of vocationally and professionally. The father of 7 children,
Wow.
married my high school sweetheart, came to faith through her family. Her father led me to Christ in the corner booth of a McDonald's about 30 years ago. So I have a dramatic sort of conversion story, perhaps like Marcia's. I don't know, Marcia, your full story, but that's my background. And what got me into writing a book on the Enneagram, Justin, is being the father of 7 children. I'm like the mayor of a small town. And so as soon as I learned about the Enneagram, I started applying it to our very complex and exciting family, and it started opening up all sorts of insights, and then applying it to our marriage, and then taking it to the congregation I was leading at the time, and finding it was just tremendously helpful in understanding human dynamics and human relationships. And I thought, I should write a book. I know how to write books. I'm pretty good at writing books, so let me write a book on this, what has been a very helpful tool, and apply it to the life of the church.
Wow, very, very interesting. Thank you for the introduction to yourself, Todd. Before we come to sort of understand what the
Latency, come on.
Enneagram is, let's hear your background as well, Marcia. Tell us about this story of yours. You know, you were an astrologer.
Is his doing latency?
For a number of years. What led you out of that eventually? Tell us some of your background.
Well, I was in what is called the New Age for a
Huh.
good 20 years. And I was not an astrologer that whole time. I became astrologer towards the latter part, the last half of those 20 years. And I was a professional certified astrologer. I had to take a 7-hour exam. Practiced in Atlanta, Georgia. I was president of the Astrological Society and chairperson of the Board of Astrology Examiners, which formulated and graded the exam that you had to take and pass to get certified by buying a business license. That's kind of a quick summary. But yeah, I was very involved also with Eastern religions, particularly Zen Buddhism. I started off in Tibetan Buddhism and then went into Zen Buddhism for another year, another number of years, doing the Buddhist meditation every day. I had tarot cards. You know, I took a course in numerology, and I sort of went into different areas, which is very typical of the New Age. You usually don't stay just in one area, but astrology was my focus. I was extremely involved with this New Age worldview, and partly a Buddhist Hindu worldview. And God intervened in my life. It's kind of a story, so I'm not going to really give it here because it would take a little too long. And it was something that happened over a series of months with interventions from the Lord that were really, there's no explanation except that it was from God. And that led me to give astrology up, actually, before I was a Christian. And then I started reading the Bible, and it was while I was reading Matthew chapter 8 that God opened my eyes to who Christ really was. So I'd had the New Age Jesus and the New Age God, and I realized who Jesus really was. And at that moment, I realized I had been wrong my whole life, and I turned my life over to Christ. And I knew immediately I was new, a new person. I knew that I didn't understand, and I didn't have the language for any of this. And after that, it was a very interesting journey because I didn't have anyone around me to help me with Christianity because of the church I was going to at the time. So, but the Lord got me through all of that. And eventually that led me to a ministry, Christian Answers for the New Age. And I've been doing that full time for 23 years. I operate as a missionary with Fellowship International Mission, which is my mission agency in Pennsylvania, but I live in Northern Virginia. I'm supported by several churches and individuals, so I live on support. And
That is, I didn't know that. That's interesting. Also, so that gives me a new valence on her because I listened to different things. I didn't know she lives on support, so she has to kind of maintain something. This is something there. She's the expert, so it makes sense that she has to hold on to this view. Not trying to invalidate it, but that adds another valence to this. Also, I'm curious of what she thinks about Eastern Orthodoxy because she like the Eastern religions and kind of had this disdainful kind of tone to it. But what about the Eastern Orthodoxy? And then she said she realized that everything was wrong. Is that the last time you realized that you had like all these things wrong, or have you continuously done that? If you that one instance was the once and be all, that's a certain type of life. But no, that's what just came to mind. That was interesting.
and I've been doing this full time. I started out doing it part time before that. And I deal with the New Age and the occult.
It's a wonderful, amazing story. I can see Todd, really encouraged by that as well.
Amazing.
Obviously, though, you've come to different perspectives and conclusions on this particular
Yes.
issue, and we don't have time to examine all of the aspects of Eastern Orientalism and all of the sort of New Age practices. But let's start with what the Enneagram is. Todd, maybe you can kick us off on this. What is the Enneagram, and how have you seen it applied fruitfully in family situations and indeed in the church?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, Justin, at the outset, you in your introduction, I think you captured it, succinctly and well. The Enneagram is a personality typing system with 9 different personality types. And there are layers for kind of how to think about that, the theory of personality that's embedded in the Enneagram system. But that's the gist of it. 9 different personality types organized around thinking, feeling, and doing, how it is that you put together those three dimensions of human experience and life, and the different way you put those together shapes your personality. So that's the gist of the Enneagram. A simpler way to think about it is it's 9 different ways of seeing the world, or 9 different ways of navigating the world. Um, and maybe a little disclaimer. I am more passionate about understanding people and personality than I am about the Enneagram, right? I mean, I've written a book on the Enneagram because I think the Enneagram is a marvelous window in on the important thing, which is not the Enneagram. You could take or leave the Enneagram as far as I'm concerned. I just think it's the most helpful way, at least that's accessible for normal people, on this thing that we all know about called personality. And how has it been helpful? It's unbelievably helpful to understand people. You have to understand people. I mean, I had a lot of education, a lot of experience going into pastoral leadership, and I had a master's degree and a PhD and published journal articles and New Testament scholarship and all the rest of it, and good mentors and good church experiences. But I was kind of an amateur in understanding people, really. I knew a lot about Greek and Hebrew exegesis, but I didn't know much about what it meant to be a human being, really. I mean, I could talk about it theologically, but that's very different than understanding the nuances and specifics of real people in a congregation that you need to lead. So what makes for good leadership, good pastoral leadership, or good leadership anywhere in the world, in any kind of an organization or firm or whatever you're doing? What makes for good leadership is self-understanding, self-awareness, and others awareness. If you don't have self-awareness and you don't have others awareness, you are not going to be an effective leader. And any secular leadership guru would tell you that, much less Christian pastors. So the Enneagram is just a marvelously helpful, I'd even say efficient way of getting at this thing we all know about called personality, and unpacking it in a really accessible and yet profound kind of way. That's why I've become a big fan of the Enneagram.
Okay. And just briefly, could you say what these 9 types are? You won't be able to go into any detail really.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
what just give us some examples.
Gotta pause it right there. We're gonna do this first part, then boom, done.